the injury status of Jordan Reed is one that has frustrated, I'm sure, Jordan and the Redskins. To me, he may be, if he's not the biggest question mark, he's one of the top three. Where are we in the status of that? Do you have any insight into how healthy he is? What are the plans for camp? They're going to bring him along slowly. Can we expect him to start week one? Do we not? Where are we with Jordan Reed?
Right. So as far as we know, he's ready to go for camp. I'm sure they will take it slow and not have him all of a sudden doing every drill every day. And whether that means a full veteran off day where he just maybe goes through the walkthrough and then doesn't participate in practice, or whether it's just, we see him pulled out of certain things. I think that we'll get a much better sense for when we talk to Jay Gruden. Certainly it's one of the top questions on my list to ask him when we meet with him 3 o'clock on Wednesday for the first time. So I think that he is going into camp healthy. Then again, if you had asked me basically 365 days ago, a couple days before camp, whether he was going in healthy, I think the answer at this point was still yes, because we had not learned that he had injured his toe yet in one of his final private workouts, solo workouts before reporting. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for Wednesday, is no surprises in general, but specifically no surprises with Jordan. And it's, assuming he's ready to go for camp, hopefully that can help him, properly launch himself, however you want to put it, into the season and stay as healthy as he has been able to ever, because he's never completed a full season. And now seems like a great time for that with him, because the honest truth, guys, is he becomes way too expensive if he's going to play 8 games. And so I think at this point, with the amount, the risk also goes down, because you talk about the risk reward ratio, and really what you're talking about is how much dead money is left on his contract. It's a lot more palatable to cut him after this season than it would have been last year. It was still worth the risk of him being healthy, and you hope that it works out. I think this is the final year of that. If he doesn't prove he can stay healthy, I think this is the final year of Jordan Reed, at the very least, under this current contract.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. If he misses 6 or 8 games, he's gone. You got to cut ties.
It doesn't make financial sense anymore, and so it's a huge year for him.
Hey, does Jay Gruden have to make the playoffs?
I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure about that. It's one of those things where it's going to depend on how it played out. I think there's a lot of us that going into last year felt like, oh my God, they've got to make the playoffs, coming off the McLuhan offseason disaster. They better prove that this administration knows what they're doing. Then they suffer all these injuries, and you go, what the hell was Jay supposed to do? And so I think it's going to depend on how it plays out. I don't think he can afford an embarrassing season, because I think there are a few coaches in the NFL that can ever afford an embarrassing season. But at the same time, I think that they made moves this offseason to win now, right? They make the Alex Smith trade instead of a long-term draft a quarterback play, because they think they can win now. They sign Paul Richardson and spend that money because they think they can win now. And so if Jay can't win with this roster that everyone, I think, kind of agrees is pretty good, obviously health relative, but if healthy, is pretty good. If he can't, if he wins 10 games and misses the playoffs because the East is stacked and the NFC's got a ton of good teams, then fire the season. So that's the other reason, on the other side of the could miss the playoffs coin, you had one side last year with injuries. I think this year you win 10 games and miss it, you're not in trouble. But he's probably going to have to win, at least 9, if not 10, I would think, to not at least be on the hot seat. I don't think it's guaranteed that he's fired, though, if he wins 8.
Interesting, because that'll be 4 out of 5 years we don't make the playoffs.
Who is some? You mentioned Paul Richardson. How excited should I be about this guy's addition to the football team? Because he's not somebody I've thought a lot about, but he could really bring something that they don't have.
Right. I think Geis kind of steals the spotlight from everybody, because that's the guy everyone's super pumped about. And then obviously it's like, oh yeah, and also the quarterback's new. So I guess that's exciting, even though I feel like that's the response, and that's the proper response you should have to Alex Smith, because he's Alex Smith. I mean, he's like milk. He's good for you, but how excited does anyone get about drinking milk?
Valdez does.
So, when it comes to Richardson, I do think you should be excited about what he could be. He is more than just a deep threat, and that is kind of what he's capable of being more than a deep threat, and he's out to prove that that is indeed what he is someone who can run the entire route tree with precision, leverage his deep speed to get some stuff underneath, can run after catch if you get him on some slants and things like that, and can absolutely run away from people. But there's also that deep element that they sorely missed last year without Deshaun Jackson, that opens up everything underneath for Reed and Crowder and whoever else. And, to have that style of deep threat on one side and then the Josh Doctson style who would just go up and pick the ball off your helmet on the other is pretty exciting. And we know from Smith's time with Tyreek Hill that he can throw to a speed deep guy. It's still TBD, and I'm very intrigued to see how he throws deep to Doctson, but we know the deep ball success that he had in Kansas City should be repeatable with Paul Richardson, so we will see, I would assume fairly early in camp, whether or not those two are on the same page.